Are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We're honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you, Councilor Tan. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will state that Councilor Clark is virtual tonight, and Council President Rio Campos is at a conference. Any citizen comments, Greg?
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have kind of a phone relayed one. It was regarding a overdue water bill. It's kind of using this both as a public comment and a PSA. So if there's a past due balance for less than $20, that household person doesn't go on a shut-off list. This particular past due balance was $23 and change, so they got a shut-off notice, and they were very upset about that. That indicated the water rates are too expensive, the water quality is too low, and that they've been a long-term customer in good standing, and that this wasn't right. So we talked through and everything, and that's what the PSA comes in, is letting people know, one, we don't report past due balances or overdue things to any kind of credit agency, so there's no impact to a credit score or otherwise. And in terms of the water quality, as we presented last meeting, we're doing the unidirectional flushing and a lot of improvements to improve. I mean, the water's always been safe in Wood Village from the testing and reports. Discolored water can be unnerving, and we're doing a lot to improve that as well. So we resolve things with our community member, and just a little PSA that we do not report past due balances to credit agencies, because life happens and that's okay.
Good. Thanks, Greg. And yeah, we don't go after wages or garnish anybody's
property
checks.
Cars.
Thanks for that update. Let's see here. We got consent. Multnomah County Sheriff's. It's not Chief Stewart, I know that, but I'm glad to have you. We're all glad to have you here, and I think we're going to get a little presentation on the drone.
I have a drone. That is.
I know you. Yeah.
I'm doing the toy drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So my name's Jessie Volker. I've been a deputy sheriff for 20 years with the sheriff's office, and I do patrol in East County, and I also do all of the community events for the law enforcement division. And as you know, last year we did a huge toy drive, and we supported 263 East County families, and we served 885 kids with toys and stockings, and we wrapped all of those toys. So today I had. Did Caroline print all those out? So yes. Flyers for the toy drive, as well as the volunteering and the challenge of the wrapping paper and tape drive that I've challenged Maywood, or not Maywood, Fairview and Troutdale, and you guys too. And hopefully Bellagio's will come through with their pizza party they said they would do. So we are challenging all the city employees and counselors to gather wrapping paper and tape to help with the toy drive. Because I did a lot of it last year, and I thought it'd be more fun to have a challenge between the cities of East County to support our people. So I'm challenging you all to a drive to gather the paper and the tape so that
Is-
we can wrap all the presents.
Is that for gathering or wrapping? Because I can't.
No, so the wrapping happens
Okay.
on the day.
Oh,
So it's just the gathering
Okay, good.
of the wrapping paper and tape. So on the day, actually, it's really cool. We have lots of volunteer opportunities. I think you've got the flyers on those. So we will have the toy drive and then it's on November 30th, but you guys will collect toys from November 1st until December, I think, 13th or 12th, something like that. And then on the night of the 13th, we gather at the church in Wood Village Baptist Church on Harada, and we organize all the toys with the help of Vera Hallman and the church group over there. And then the 14th, the families line up, and one started at 5 a.m. last year to make sure they were first in line.
Oh.
And they get a number, and then we're hopefully, last year we got food and we have games and card making stations and stuff for the kids to wait. And we call, and every family has their own personal shopper. So it's really cool. So you shop with them and then you take them over to the wrapping area, and we have people who wrap, because I'm not a famous rapper, so I think I'll be a personal shopper this year. And then we wrap all their gifts and then they take them all home with them. So it's a really cool volunteer opportunity. The 30th will be at Kohl's, Fred Meyer's and Walmart from, I think, 9 to 3. And we gather all the toys, and it was a huge thing. And then this year we have a couple businesses I'm working with that are going to do bike drives, because we lost our Penske people that did the bike drive last year, and we raffle off bikes that are donated. So not just the first, certain families get it. We can spread the bikes out among all the families. They come with helmets. So we had lots of skateboards last year and really cool things. So it's just fun. It's, bringing our community together and really serving East County, because we noticed that, like, with our last one that we used to do several years ago, we donated everything to Snowcap. And we saw a lot of families from Portland and other areas coming in, and it didn't serve our communities. And so when I heard that, we had people that wanted to just serve our families, we decided to do this last year. So, and it was a very, very big hit.
I have a question. I went on your website
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't find where the donation, or not the donations, where the volunteer opportunities were, like the dates and where they were.
Maybe Vera didn't send that out. I will make sure Caroline gets it.
Yeah, I was like, well,
Is it not on your website? Because I went to
No.
the Toy Drive website.
I didn't know we had a website.
Oh, I just Googled Multnomah County Toy Drive.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
we'll make sure Caroline will keep everyone
Okay.
Yeah.
abreast
Yeah. I
of
thought it was
all
on
the
a flyer,
opportunities.
and-
I see the pickup and then this.
Okay,
donate-
there might have been another flyer I had her print out.
Okay, okay.
But there was a second flyer. It has all the volunteer opportunities and the
Gotcha.
meetings and stuff. There was a
Same
second.
thing.
Well,
Just.
She was at the meeting. I thought she had it.
we will,
Yeah,
you
but
will get it.
Those dates.
we'll
Yeah.
follow up on that.
I apologize for that.
No worries.
We will make sure you guys get those dates.
Yeah.
and-
Because it was, Deputy, I know that my wife and I were down there at
Yes.
Fred Meyer's, and it was, it was a lot of fun.
It was.
Having these folks come in, and I was out trying to hustle more presents from people and stopping them in the aisle and harassing them almost, but it was a
Yep.
lot of fun, and we did collect a lot, I
Yes.
believe, and I'll go back to Counselor Smith's question. I'll be happy to give you all the paper you need and all the tape, as long as I don't have to wrap.
Didn't have to wrap.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Bueller Maywood is also doing toy drive for us to bring all their toys out. So they were going to participate in the toy drive, the wrapping paper, and she goes, wait, I want to do toys. So her goal is to gather a small U-Haul truck to bring toys out for our toy drive here in East County. So Maywood is also participating. So all of our contracts
Okay.
and we're gathering. So it's going to be a great year for our kids.
That's
So-
great.
Thank you for having me. and I'll make sure you guys get those forms.
Thank you.
And one more plug.
Yes.
The presence down at the church. I
Oh.
did spend a few hours down there. It is a fantastic experience just to see those citizens and families come through and shop.
Yeah.
And it is like a toy land, and they got a little ticket and they come through, and it's like a little miniature Disneyland for people.
It is. They have a
Yeah.
good time, and it's just a real good give back moment. So we're really excited for it this year. So thank you guys for. having
Thank you,
me.
Deputy. Appreciate it.
Now, next is the drone.
Okay, the drone. Good evening.
Not know me. My name is Jennifer Chubinashu. I'm a lieutenant currently assigned to the Marine and the Civil Unit. I used to be the chief here for 5.5
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Lieutenant, thanks to have, nice having you back here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's going to be just a quick little update on this kind of where our agency is going with purchasing drones. So we are in the process of purchasing 6 drones. We have not received them yet. And the drone, if you guys don't know what a drone is, it's a small little mini aircraft that goes up in the air and can take pictures, can find people out missing in the woods or whatnot. The 3 drones that we're getting, there's 3 different kinds of drones that we're getting. Is one of them is going to have a really traffic scenes for traffic crashes and for reconstructions. And also for capturing pictures for other things too, but this is our goal, is to use it for traffic crashes. Another type of drone we're getting is one with the FLIR on it that's able to go and find warmth in the woods. If someone's missing, they'll be able to find, hopefully locate these missing people, or anywhere, not just in the woods. It could be anywhere. And then another type of drone we're getting is a smaller drone. I don't know exactly, I haven't held it in my hand, but what I've been told, it's a smaller drone like this that can go in or around tighter areas, or maybe even inside homes, inside houses. We would use those kind of drones if somebody like runs from a car, we're trying to chase them around fences and whatnot and capture them that way. So the reason why we're getting drones, this is probably a question you guys have, is to save time and money. We're saving time and money by not having to deploy a plane. We're deploying these little tiny, they're still very expensive, but compared to a plane, an aircraft, and all the gas and fuel that it takes, they're much less, they're cost effective. They will hopefully open roads up faster. So instead of having to put a plane up, or instead of having us have cars all over, which we still will have cars in the area. Obviously, if there's a big scene that happens, there's going to be a lot of police cars, but this will hopefully help us capture the data that we're looking for quicker, and we're able to get out of and open the roads quicker. So for example, for VCT, it's the vehicle crash team that we have. Right now, we have this equipment that's on the ground that takes about, depends on how big the scene is, to scan an entire crash, like a death investigation scene, hours, 3, 6, 8 hours. It could take longer depending on how big the scene is. With the drone up in the air, you're deploying that thing, it's snapping all these photos, and we're able to take that to our computers and deal with it instead of having to be on the road with this machine that we're using right now. So it cuts the time, I want to say in half, but even less than that. So we're cutting the time and we're saving people the time from having to have road closures. Another thing that why we're getting drones is officer and community safety. So again, like I said, instead of deploying a dog or an officer or deputy in let's say a shed or a backyard somewhere, we're able to put the drone up and see from up above if they're even in there, to see if we're even going to go and risk our deputies going into these locations, right? Another question that we had asked in other previous meetings that I had were, are they going to invade my privacy, right? We're going to follow all the rules that we follow now with aircraft. Same kind of rules apply, because it's still an aircraft, is just not a big, huge plane. It's a little tiny aircraft. So whatever rules and policies we have now are going to be directly reflected into a smaller aircraft. So all the rules and violation of your privacies and stuff, that's all out the door. As far as, we're not going to violate the privacy. We're going to follow the exact same policy and rules that we're following right now with what we have with the aircraft. And then it just helps us have another tool out there, right? So instead of having a dog only, or like a canine or a deputy going out and deploying on certain calls, we also have the drone now. So it's just another asset. We're one of the last agencies in the state that as the size of us that has yet to have a drone program. So we're just catching up with the times. Right now, we currently do use drones. We just borrow Gresham's. So there's drones out there that we might be seeing, but that's Gresham's drones. So we've been partnering up with them. They've been a great ally to us to have them come out here and scan our scenes or whatnot. And we've been using them, but you'll be seeing our drones hopefully soon. I'm not sure exactly the month, but we ordered them, so they should be coming in, and then having to train all our people up on them. Everyone's going to be FAA certified, so everyone has to go through a class and get licensed to be able to fly the drone. It's not as much as an airplane license, but it's still enough to fly the actual aircraft. So we have 4 right now, 4 drone operators and a supervisor that manages the team. We're looking to hopefully expand that. We just have to start somewhere. So we're starting with 4 and expanding further from there in the future. So let me see if I have anything else. Does anyone, I said a lot of stuff. Does anyone have like
Any questions, Councillor Clark? I'll start so I don't forget you when I'm talking here.
No questions. I'm licensed myself, and it's pretty easy to get the license and just go from there. Yeah. It'll really help out the MCSO. I'm sure they're going to really enjoy it, and their investigations will definitely go much faster. So I'm really looking forward to them using them.
Well, thank you.
There's,
How high does the drone fly up?
I know how they, what, Steve,
Because-
let me see, let me pull it up. Like, are they gonna be hovering right above your head?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking like the interference between like, like if we were using a helicopter and,
Yeah,
you know, like.
They're not gonna go that high, for sure, they're not going that high. And if we do go high, so you have to have line of sight, you still have to be able to see them. They can't go high,
Oh.
you can't see them. But also, we have to get permission, so you can't just go up and throw it up there as high as the airplane and be in their air
Right,
traffic.
yeah.
There's those rules, so all those rules are gonna be followed. You can't just do willy-nilly stuff. You have to get permissions and make sure that you're doing everything regular air traffic, but they can stay up in the air for, depending on which one it is, for up to 30 minutes, and they have to come back down and change their batteries. They do fly in the rain and cold, but not if it's severe. If it's like too rainy or too windy, they're not gonna go up there. So we can't really use them for everything, because out in the gorge and out in this area,
Terrible, yeah.
it's very windy. So we're gonna be using them, but we're gonna see how much we can resist with them. But yeah, I don't know exactly how high they go, but they're not gonna interfere with airplane traffic.
But
and
400,
Councilor Clark, go ahead.
400 feet, unless there's the air shed, anywhere around Troutdale Airport, the maximum would be 200 feet. When I'm flying around my house, it's generally 300 feet, depending on where I'm at in Wood Village. I just can't, it lets me know when you go up, that when you're getting close to the air shed, it just lets you know that you're going to be flying into the area. And it's plenty high. So you're fine, and you're always going to be in contact with it, and it's very intuitive when you're going up. So if you're closer to the airport, it'll just let you know that no, you cannot fly in that area, and otherwise, and that's for anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter if you're law enforcement or not. You just cannot fly anywhere near the airport. So. But otherwise, you're free. State parks, federal parks and federal areas, you cannot fly, and basically that's about it.
Thank you, Counselor. My only comment is, it's a great investment, and
Yeah, that's-
I'm happy that you can, the department's getting those.
And we're very excited.
For all
to
those
start.
reasons you said, safety
Yeah.
for the deputies, personnel, if, it just makes all the sense, and glad you're getting them.
Yeah, we're very excited. We can't wait to see them up there and kind of get going and get trained up on them. So we're very excited to be.
And I have
having them
one
on set.
quick question. I mean, I imagine the one for vehicle crash reconstruction, that'll be obviously in a case in a car that goes out to those scenes.
Yep.
Where will the other ones live or deploy from? Also from specific, cars, vehicles, or like at a central
Our
spot?
dream is to get a specific vehicle to house the drones, maybe more than one vehicle. But right now Gresham has a really cool rig where they just pull out a thing out of their back, like truck area, and they have the whole drone thing and computers and all that stuff. We don't have that yet. We're starting small, seeing how it goes, and we're going to learn from other agencies, obviously. But my goal is to get some trucks outfitted so that they'll deploy from a truck and somebody will just be driving that car. Right now, they'll be housed at our Troutdale office, just in a room. And then if they get needed to deploy, somebody can go grab it and then go deploy with it. So they're accessible to everybody. Yeah. So right now, our dream is to have that, but one day, yeah,
Great. Yeah, 'cause, search and rescue is, and all that good stuff. So
it'll just deploy like out of somebody's car, probably on the street. Yeah.
And as you move forward with this, you'll have drone operators on all shifts, I would.
That's the
assume.
goal. That's
yeah.
the goal. So right now, the way it's spread out, it's not the case. That's why I want more. So we have a process that we'll be opening up and hopefully get one from each shift. They're on call. So that even if they're not on shift actively working, that we'll just call them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much
Thank you.
for the
Yeah.
presentations,
Thank you.
and
Have a
we're
good night.
happy for you to get
Yeah,
those
you're
drones.
exciting.
I think Councillor Clark had another question.
Oh.
Counselor Clark.
I was just going to comment that very rarely do I ever fly any higher than 150 feet. And that's because generally I'm trying to get pictures of people's, or, in the case of what I would think that the sheriff's office would be looking for is cars and people and things like that. And so they're not going to be flying up to 400 feet because it's just not going to be what they're looking for. So The height is not a factor. I mean, we've heard about people, or I watch videos where people have gone up as high as 50,000 feet, which is just absolutely crazy. And you know, they obviously they end up in prison for doing it. And this has occurred over in England, and these people are nuts for doing it, but and they've done it. But they're just trying to prove a point that they've got the battery power to be able to do that. But yeah, generally you're just going to fly. The idea is not to reach the limit, it's to stay down and get quality photos. So yeah, it's not a matter of going high, it's a matter of getting quality photos. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Be safe out there. Consent calendar is the council minutes from October 8th. Any corrections, modifications? Hearing none, was there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Moved and seconded, and all in favor of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes?
Aye.
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 All right. Greg, you're going to introduce our next presentation.
Yes, while I pull up the presentation, so we have Chris Damgan here from the Port of Portland, who's going to talk about county economic enhancements that have been going on. I've kind of given a little update to council, but this is a more comprehensive update, including next steps and I guess the work that was done and the next steps. So give me one more second here. There we go. So hopefully everyone can kind of see that, and then where's yours?
All right. Thank you, Greg, for the introduction. Good evening, council, mayor, and folks, anybody watching from home. As Greg mentioned, my name is Chris Damgan. I am with the Port of Portland, have been with the port for just under 2 years now, but I have some East County background. I used to be next door over in Troutdale as the community development director for about 7 years. So East County is near and dear. I always look forward to coming back. I had a burrito from the burrito shop just before coming here. I know I spilled on me, but always love coming to Wood Village, and happy to be here tonight. Thank you for the invitation to present. Councilor Clark, are you able to see the screen at home? Just want to make sure that you see it as well.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going to run this off the PDF. I was having some issue with our PowerPoint, so forgive the interface. If you need me to zoom in on anything, I'll be happy to stop. I'm going to present some slides. There are a couple that I'm going to go through just a little bit quick. I'm really here to listen and have question and answer just as much as to share information. So I'm happy to allot time for that. So you folks, I'm sure, have heard of the Port of Portland, maybe in some capacity, but just so everybody has the general expectation of who we are and what we do. So the port, our mission statement, we build shared prosperity for the region through travel, trade, and economic development. And we have a variety of property holdings. We have 6 business parks, including 2 out here in East County, over at Troutdale Reynolds Industrial Park, over where Amazon and FedEx and those facilities are, as well as at Gresham Vista Business Park, just across Gleason Street from Wood Village, where we have several developments in that location. We also, of course, operate marine terminals, which most people would associate with the port. We have 3 active terminals at T4, 5, and 6, which are located in Portland, and then 3 airports, PDX, which most of you have been to, I'm sure, and hopefully you have seen our new terminal. Hopefully, if you haven't seen it, I do encourage you to go. You can see it even if you're not flying. It's pretty spectacular. And then, of course, 2 general aviation facilities, including one here less than a mile away at Troutdale. Our business is structured in such a way where we have 2 distinct business lines, an aviation business line and a general fund. And I'm here representing effectively the general fund. This has to do with FAA regulations as far as money that is made at Portland International Airport at PDX stays at PDX. So the port has to make financial decisions based on the balance of its portfolio, the industrial properties and the marine terminals, and has to think long-term and strategically about how we develop business and how we develop properties. And that's the where I am nested in the port. Before I go any further, I do also want to acknowledge my colleague, Emily Bauer, who had a family situation come up. She would normally be joining me here tonight, but Emily and I are the ones who are working on this effort that you're learning about tonight. So why are we here? Why is the port here? The port is already in East County, as we mentioned, but we're really committed to long-term the future of this region. We have a vision where we want to see an improvement in quality jobs, the ability to have multi-generational wealth and access to markets. And as we know, as you folks especially know, that has not always been equitable throughout the region. East County does lag on a number of socioeconomic indicators. And even with recent economic gains, there are still some lags as far as the development and implementation of bringing quality jobs to the region. So we're trying to be more mindful of that as an agency moving forward, and ideally as a region in how we think about an economic development strategy for not just this place, not just down the street, but for East County. And what I mean by East County is the 4 cities. I know East County can have a number of definitions geographically applied. Some people take it to 205. Some people take it to 181st. For the purposes of what I'm talking to you tonight about, the idea of taking some action and moving it forward, we really wanted to focus on the 4 cities. Although there will definitely be spillover for East Portland and some benefits associated with it too. But from the get-go, I do want to compliment Greg. Greg has been really a fine representative for Wood Village in our regional conversations. He's been at our convening meetings. We've had a number of one-on-one conversations, and I also wanted to thank Mayor Minor. I know you and I, we've gotten to talk as well about kind of what the port might be able to help with for Wood Village and the region in general. The port specifically in East County, if you think about our involvement in East County, it's really 3 chapters, and we're just opening the 3rd one. The first chapter, really the initial investment in East County was at Troutdale Airport when we purchased the facility right around World War I. So really, we were involved in aviation, in the development of aviation adjacent businesses at the airfield, and served in that role for a number of years. And at the turn of the century, though, there were some other opportunities that came up where the port saw itself more as an ability to bring economic development adjacent to its sites. We started doing that with our marine terminals. We did it at PDX, and then we saw the old Reynolds aluminum plant, that had effectively been decommissioned, and said, well, can we turn this into a prosperous business park? And for the last 20 years or so, we've done just that. We've invested a lot of money and time, and with some patience and good effort, we've seen the fruits of that outcome, and that we have a significant employment area here in East County. But as we're thinking and as we're evolving as an agency and we're thinking about our future and our mission statement about shared prosperity, the next phase of our intended investment in East County is really going to be more focused on shared prosperity and thinking not just about our assets, but people, and leading conversations about future investments with people in mind, not just so much places or, end results in mind. So we're being a little bit more intentional. I hope we're being more thoughtful about how we approach the community and what's next for the port. And while we're doing that, we saw an appetite and a yearning for greater economic development cooperation across jurisdictional boundaries and greater coordination across sectors. We noticed, especially post-pandemic, that there had still been some siloing between local government, businesses, education, nonprofits. There was a yearning really to see, could we develop something and come together? So that's what's leading to this, and that is our East County strategy. And what we're hoping to do is to establish a roadmap for equitable economic development investment in this place. We have success metrics that we want to prioritize and center BIPOC communities. We want to have community, intergovernmental, and local stakeholders see the priorities incorporated regionally into our process. And we also want to move toward a more equitable business model for small and large scale businesses and industries. Our role is we're the convener. We have a charge from our Port Commission to try to get momentum and to serve in that capacity. But really, we're hoping that the roadmap is a coalition building exercise and can be owned by folks who participate in it. And that would include local government, it would include community-based organizations and those folks who want to see their priorities be elevated and potentially executed upon. So in the end, this document, while we're shepherding it, it's not a Port of Portland document, but we're going to use it to inform our business decisions moving forward because we know we would then have a good community embrace of the type of work we're trying to bring to East County and to our properties, both current and future. So this strategy is effectively a 3-year process, and we're actually in the 2nd year and about to wrap it up. The first year was a discovery phase, which I'll touch on some high points. We're currently in the engagement phase, and I'll cover that information. And we're cycling toward a coalition building for an alignment. And the coalition I'll end on that, but it's effectively how we believe Wood Village can fit into this picture and how we can have other folks at the table fit into this picture to move these priorities. What we learned in our discovery phase is that for those who know who the port is, that we're trusted, that we are desired to be a convener, and we're happy to fulfill that role. As mentioned, there was a desire for better coordination across sectors. Wealth building opportunities were very important. This was community outreach. We went to events. We went to City Night Out here. We were really pleased to be a part of that. And there's enormous, and you folks know this, there's enormous pride in community. There's a number of people who love being in East County. And for sometimes the reputation and the unfair treatment that this region has received, there's still a dogged pride here. And that should be recognized and celebrated and elevated because there's a ton of cool stuff here and a ton of cool people. And, you know, as we're thinking about economic development, we can't forget also those supportive services, and childcare came up over and over again. Again, I'm sure this is of no surprise to folks in this room. I know we talk a lot about housing and we talk a lot about transit and transportation access, but childcare is a big deal. And particularly when we now have funding mechanisms in place to tap into taking advantage of that, it's an increasingly critical part of an economic development strategy. Within now our engagement period, that's that second phase of our effort, we are in a learning process, but we are building upon knowledge base. And we formed a steering committee with the help of our consultant Bridge Economic Development, which Greg is a part of and has been attending meetings throughout the past 6 months. In April, we started with a kickoff. We identified key locations across East County that mattered to local jurisdictions as well as local businesses and nonprofits, and through about 50 locations on the map. And while we did that, we also identified maybe a dozen or so really important topics that we're trying to figure out how to tackle and figure out what can we coalesce around, what can we prioritize. So we've been going through these steps, and the past 6 months has led to a prioritization exercise based on what we learned from last year's work, based on analysis and information and data that we did in the background in this year. And then moving forward, how do we then enter it into a roadmap and move it to future implementation? So the next couple of slides are going to show some data that probably is going to be familiar to you or a no shock, but it's going to also inform how we then went through our priorities to identify projects that our coalition could work on. Knowing that we have diversity in the community, especially in this community, these are some of the figures here that separates East Multnomah County out. And this is important because when we're trying to establish what we're trying to do with this roadmap, we're establishing a vision. And because we have a high foreign language native speaking population, the idea of a global community being here in East County started resonating. This slide shows effectively industry growth that we've had and industry locations that we have. Again, of no surprise, transportation and warehousing is our largest one in the four-city region. Healthcare and social assistance is the second largest, and then manufacturing, which you have this here too in Wood Village, is the third largest. And that's one that is especially of interest to us because those wages hit on those quality job outcomes if we're able to find and help develop advanced manufacturing opportunities. We understand East County has a lot of advantages for transportation and warehousing, but we also know there are impacts associated with that too. So when we're doing our industrial scan, that's what we see. The spirit of the room, these are the four traits that we're trying to look for, and we're trying to bring the communities together and the various sectors together through these four general initiatives right here. This talks a little bit just about some population interest. While the metro region in the last couple of years has actually lost some population, East County has actually gained. That's a little bit of an outlier, and it does speak to some of the pressures, but it also speaks to the opportunities and the desirability of this location. And we also know, you folks know as well, that Mount Hood Community College is that main asset. It covers all four cities and our entire area, and it really has opportunities, obviously, for education, but also has opportunities in early childhood education. It has opportunities in small business development and incubation. And it has also land that it can still develop on the Troutdale side of the campus. So it came up repeatedly, the importance of the college. And so three key messages emerged through our conversations that there are still some concerning conditions. We can't solve tax burdens. We can't solve all the regulatory environment issues, but that is a little bit of a hindrance. And there has to be a degree of advocacy that a coalition could do to help convince folks that we can do better, and that if we're aligned and we understand what our priorities are, we can make a difference. That our region should also be positioned for near-term opportunities. I mentioned, for instance, preschool for all dollars. That's an opportunity, but there's also things coming down from federal investment, onshoring, and opportunities to bring industry or new business into this community, as well as potentially build up business that's homegrown. And third, much like the first thing, there are still some regional and state structural issues that need to be addressed. What this is all speaking to is a need for this region to potentially coalesce around some shared advocacy. It's one thing for Greg to go to the League of Cities or to meet with your state delegation here and articulate the needs of Wood Village, or for Ray Young to do it in Troutdale or whoever. But if the four cities plus the coalition of private, educational, and community-based organizations work together, we can sing from the same song sheets and really determine that we have regional needs here. These are our priorities. These are some things that are in our way. Let's work to find some solutions. This is a busy slide, but really what I want to get to is all of these factors that we've just talked about is inputted into a vision for this coalition to move forward. And the vision here is that this region is a global economic district by nature of its demography, by nature of its access to transportation and the ability to have PDX nearby, its diverse community, and it has incredible opportunity. It uses and it leverages its existing advantages in transportation and logistics, to create hubs of collaboration and innovation and excellence. And by enhancing these global perspectives and promoting these vibrant marketplaces, you can really enhance career and business opportunities for your residents. There's a lot of potential here. You folks know this. And this is a vision that everybody who were in these steering committee meetings with us coalesced around. As we went through this, we also went back to our maps where we had identified locations, and we went back to our drawing board where we identified things we'd like to figure out and how to address topics. And we wanted to figure out, if we're going to start a coalition, we need to have some momentum. We need to have some early wins. We need to have a couple of projects that we can really focus on, that a project would have a leading partner, an agency, a company, a community-based organization that is the lead or has done some work on it, but just may need some additional support from other folks. And those would be partner organizations. So we started through this exercise and we figured, okay, can we identify 3 to 5 different projects that this coalition moving forward can get behind, regardless of where it's located or precisely what it is? These projects have been identified across the board as important for the region, in line with the vision that I just showed you, and can be executable in a short period of time. So we went through this exercise where we looked at a variety of projects. We scored them through steering committee interest. And again, the steering committee is the 4 cities, academia, business, and community-based organizations. We looked at it through equitable development criteria. Do these projects help to move forward equitable development and ideally equitable development outcomes? And how much did we know about a program and the criteria? Is a program or a location really fleshed out? So you may have a very compelling piece of property. So for instance, I'm going to pick on Gresham. You folks know where the pit is in Gresham. It's the large tract around 190th. There's tremendous big opportunity on that site, but there's not a clear vision necessarily for what exactly to do for that site. So that site should be listed, but it may not be the highest priority because you've got to figure out what to do with it. Whereas a site immediately next door to that, Advanced Park in Gresham, Multnomah County has been planning that for several years. There's a clear vision and articulation. So that's an example of how you would think about a project that might be ready for implementation. So what we did on the right side there, this image here shows a map that we used that showed all 50 locations across East County. It showed also where there were important census tracts to consider, from employment centers, where folks who are considered highly vulnerable or have a higher percentage of highly vulnerable people are located in. And also census tracts which are eligible for potential funding from the federal government for what we call Justice 40 grants. These are census tracts that you can have that have historically had environmental impacts, where the federal government has committed to 40% of its funding to go to those specific tracts for certain particular purposes. So these are, if you're ever applying for federal funding for anything, these are rising to the top as far as important properties. So we looked at all of these factors, and we looked at and surveyed folks, and of those 50 or so properties, about 10 came up as far as of interest. And I want to mention that Wood Village, in the case, the Byway project at that time, where there was still some vacancy at the time, certainly made the list. I'm happy to see that there's tenancy in there right now. But it was indicative that we're looking across the cities, that it's not just a Gresham thing. We looked at it through interest through the committee. We looked at it by contribution as far as how did the people who are on the committee, how do they think could they contribute time, energy, and resources in advancing a conversation? And we merged those together. And what we found is that the Mount Hood Community College campus rose to the top. We had Mount Hood Community College already in the room, but everybody who is in this district has a vested interest in Mount Hood Community College. Gresham Vista Business Park, which I'll talk about a little bit later, came up very close. That is immediately across the street from Wood Village too. And there were a couple of other sites as well, including Troutdale Airport, which is port owned. What I want to stress, though, is that these 10 sites here are the top sites out of 50. So even if the Byway, for instance, or Fairview Springs is lowest on this list here, it doesn't mean that it's not important. It means that we had a lot of information about these other sites and that they were of highest interest to us. We then also looked at programs, and programs are effectively topics that are not necessarily tied to geography. A program can be about, we want to improve workforce training opportunities. We want to focus on industrial site readiness. We want to advocate for childcare. And so of the steering committee members, again, these were the top 6 efforts and initiatives that people found important out of several. What we could focus on a committee, workforce training and industrial site readiness rose to the top of the evaluation based on interest and by what people think they could contribute to this effort. And so the resulting scores from this matrix, which included both the geography and the programmatic, you had 5 high scoring projects here. And the 3 locations that rose to the top, again, the college campus, Gresham Vista Lot 11, which is again right across the street from Wood Village Town Center, and Vance Park over in Rockwood. That's not to say again that these other properties listed below are not important or that they couldn't be worked on, but that those 3 were things were properties and locations that we knew we could do something with and could work right away in a coalition. And then again, the programs, the transit improvements and the workforce development hub were the top scoring things. I don't think I need to tell this group that transit improvements have long been an issue for our region and for this city in particular. And that message was heard by TriMet, who's on this committee too. And they are aware that it's a major community concern. We also know that there's an effort underway to improve workforce development, and the idea of a hub concept came out. How and what that looks like still remains to be seen, but these are the priorities of the region, if you will. This is our best effort to make sure that we think we covered what we heard from our committee members, as well as our community members in evaluating what's important for a roadmap. So where are we going with this roadmap, and how would Wood Village fit into it? Even though the shortlisted sites, none of them are actually within the city of Wood Village, you have adjacencies to them, and what happens across the street from you in Lot 11 can impact, hopefully positively, the city of Wood Village. Investments and improvements for Mount Hood Community College supports your residents and supports the city. Investments in transit improvements with TriMet and being aligned with TriMet's long-term planning and programmatic efforts are inevitably going to help Wood Village. We were in a meeting today, just today, with TriMet staff, and they talked about in the next 2 to 3 years, some really exciting projects that absolutely will benefit Wood Village if they're able to execute, hopefully. But largely what we want for you folks and for your staff to have is continued engagement and the understanding that you have partners in advocacy for the things that matter to you. So we hope that Wood Village can continue to have representation on a future coalition as we take those priority projects that we identified and start to build work plans around them and start getting things done. The industrial site readiness task in particular, we know you have some industrial property in the city, some of which might be wanting to be reconsidered or reimagined for future development. There's opportunities there. There's an appetite and a need for better industrial lands across the region. So we think you have a role to play there. And then lastly, business development and retention opportunities. You folks have been especially good at being mindful of your business community. I think there's some lessons to be learned regionally for that you guys can share with it. But there's also things that we as a region can do to improve business development and retention, particularly the small business and the BIPOC minority-owned businesses in the community. I know that's a lot, but what I want to say just in closing is that we are feeling really optimistic as a committee, and I think as a port, as far as the momentum we have regionally. There are obviously going to be differences sometimes between the cities, but I think there's been ongoing continued participation. This is one of the few times I've been part of a coalition building exercise where the first meeting was smaller than the last meeting. We had growth in our committee and continued sustained interest in the committee. And, we can't solve for everything. We can't solve for housing. We can't solve the tax situation, but what we can do is create some things on the economic development front that might move certain needles, and certain needles can also be moved as a result in some of the overlapping topics that affect our livability here in East County. So I appreciate your time. I know that was a lot of information, and I'll do my best to hopefully answer any questions for you.
Well, Chris, I'm going to open it up to some questions, but first, thank you for in within a year, you've got a lot of work done here.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just hold my comments and just open it up for questions. Councillor Clark, do you have questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Starting off with having the Lot 11 concept, I can remember going back to when Stan Dirks was on the council, that he and we talked a lot about the concepts of when the port took over, that corner there, if this is the one here in the yellow that you're talking about, we had hoped that that was really going to be something other than just then a storage place where somebody would just come in and put some boxes in it and then take them back out and take them somewhere else. We were really hoping that the port would do something along, really grand, or, have a training center or whatever else they could do that would be, some kind of manufacturing. What's going on up in the opposite corner up on top of the hill where the Washman is, it's escaping my mind right now, but I used to shop there all the time when I was working.
Granger?
Granger.
Yeah, the
Rangers. I can hardly wait for that to open, because I'm still slightly employed with a company that does work with heating and air conditioning. And so that's going to be something that's going to be very valuable to the company that I support. So, that's a no-brainer there. So something down there that is actually in an industrial capacity, would be really wonderful there. So I don't know if you got anything, and I know you can't really talk about it, but that would be something very valuable there on Lot 11. Fantastic. I love this whole concept of what you've got going here. So a workforce development hub, that'd be fantastic there. I'm just excited about the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
If I can answer that question, Mayor, real quick.
Sure.
Just real quick. The port is viewing Lot 11 as an empty slate, as an opportunity for any sort of imaginative pairing of a variety of things. And the Gresham, it's in the city of Gresham. The zoning, however, is pretty allowable for a lot of different potential uses or commingling of uses, including residential, I would add, which just seems strange for an industrial park, but it's actually commercially zoned and somewhat segregated from the balance of the industrial park.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I see what you've done to invest in Troutdale and Gresham, and we're kind of always at the bottom of the list. What would you invest in Wood Village or future investments in our town, not across the street?
I appreciate that. I think one of the things, just looking at a map, and this is a little bit outside the strategy, but just more from a industrial development perspective, the industrial site readiness piece is a way to develop a toolkit for the city and for any property manager to better enable or unlock, because you also are in a unique situation. You have no room to expand. You're surrounded completely by other cities. So the ability for this city to potentially see some redevelopment of maybe some older or tired industrial land where you could have a better or more efficient use of space, I think is a very compelling opportunity for the city. I would think that that's certainly one. The other one that, of course, didn't make the list, which is, of course, very obvious to you all, is the future of the Grand Ronde property. And one of the reasons it didn't make the short list, so to speak, is because there's just not as much knowledge long-term about what could happen there, although there's a lot of possibility, as Greg has mentioned or discussed with us, but also, what the timeline might be. So for the purpose of prioritization, it was not to say that there wasn't a priority project in Wood Village. It was more, what can the coalition do right now in the next year, 2 or 3 to get some momentum? So when it does come to the fact that maybe we make some progress on industrial site readiness, that there might be very compelling sites in the city. In fact, there are. Or, what ultimately the tribe might consider is their best path forward with their site, because I will tell you that is a really exciting proposition. And I think every person on that steering committee is really interested when the time is right to learn more about what the opportunity is.
And if I could help just add to that really quick, because I will credit, Chris and the Port team. A lot of the shortlist projects are Gresham or Gresham adjacent, and they were very cognizant of that fact and how this isn't the other cities being ignored. It was just what's ripe at this time. And part of, I think, the power of the coalition, if you go in the Wayback Machine and think of the East County Economic Alliance, EME, or East Metro Economic Alliance, when opportunities do pop up, you've already got the coalition of players that can help support, encourage, or recommend projects. In fact, the Woodmiser building at the end of Sandy, I think it's like 5-acre site, right? 10,000 square foot building. It's vacant, it's for sale for. There's already contacts at the port that have thought of potential leasors or buyers of that site. And so I think as other opportunities arise, whether it's in our commercial industrial zone with the Grand Ron site, as things come up, there's already going to be a coalition that can help support, build, or create other momentum or opportunities on these sites. It's just, they're not there yet.
If I may, Councillor Smith, Wood Village from a census tract perspective is also very well positioned if there were opportunities to come up to take full advantage of federal grant opportunities, which I understand usually come with string attached. And that's a big burden for any participating agency, especially for a small city like you all. But that's precisely maybe the power of a coalition, that it could be done in partnership. Maybe it is the port that's your partner in pursuing some opportunity that might be right for the community. It doesn't have to be but just by yourself. Yeah. Yep.
Dan? The question of the Grand Ron property, of course, was on my mind too, and I know some of the conversations there. There could be just a load of possibilities for a partnership there.
Absolutely.
And I think that that we meet regularly with the council, and we are always talking about possibilities. So knowing that the port could be a partner in something, should we get some traction, is positive news, Chris. So that's that in itself. Again, I think the speaking with one voice, as we've talked about in East County for a long time, it really does take the 4 cities, and now with a partner like the port. Again, I just echoing what the objective of some of this work is, and I think it's absolutely critical for East County. In some of your report, which I wasn't tracking until I read a portion of that. But we have incomes rising in East County, and we have the population rising, and we have job opportunities. And when you compare it to the Portland metro area, or even on the national, based on the studies that you're doing and have done, we are, and I would say, prime for a coalition and a large effort like this to launch, and I believe lots of opportunities here in East County. So I think this work is so critical, and just pleased where it's at right now, Chris, and you and Emily.
Yeah.
Emily. Yeah. I just had a note here on one of the. As I don't need to cover all of these, but on the job growth, I mean, as we know, it's transportation and it's warehousing
Mhm.
with some manufacturing. And we know that that's here and we need to capitalize on it. I also know, I'm not an expert, but I also know those are two industries that are moving probably faster than some in automation. And so I think while those are our jobs, we have to really think about manufacturing and some of the other pieces of your report. So I just want to reinforce that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
The, I don't think I can add too much to this right now, but just real pleased at where this is at this point. And Greg, again, it's important that you're on that committee. And I know when he was invited to be there, that was it wasn't just an idle invite and just grabbing somebody. You do have a person that is going to be very helpful, I believe, in speaking for not only Wood Village, but for East County. So the last thing I'd say, that lot 11, it just is like a yellow flashing light on the opportunities there. And it's right across the street from us. So.
And just to add a quick thing to help keep us on time, and we're a bit over, but I haven't been just an idle voice in this process. Certainly some of the first meetings is very strong about not going to be part of this. This is just lip service. This is just a ideal report, and then it just sits there. The other part I've been very adamant about is East County will not be the next inland empire, and we won't be stuffed full of just warehouses. And I think, that resonated through other members, that shared a shared vision and shared thought. That also doesn't mean if warehousing and distribution is something that we're leveraged for, we can't also leverage that by manufacturing the parts and pieces for the automation, for the workforce training to maintain those robots and keep them from the hostile takeover that they'll ultimately rise up and do. But on a serious note, though, the partnership with Mount Hood Community College has been, I think, really wonderful and a strong piece. Dr. Ascari and her whole team have been at almost every meeting, and between the city and them have even created a stronger partnership. And I know they have the Oregon Promise program and legislative advocacy that I think we can help Wood Village community members.
Yeah. It's Chris, we go back to the conversation you and I had. It was Mount Hood Community College and quit building warehouses all the time. And let's get some manufacturing. So you're doing all the right things from certainly my perspective, and Mount Hood Community College is the key. And what you're doing there, and let me just say one more thing, what we're doing with Mount Hood right now can help them pass a bond. And that has to happen. And with the work and a little bit of engagement in the community and awareness of what's going on, I believe that could be a factor in finally getting the bond passed for that college. So don't overlook that. We got to get that passed. Thank you, Chris. And with that, I'll wrap this up. And are we going to see Chris again someplace down the road?
I'm sure we'll see him someplace down the road.
Okay.
We're happy to come back, Mayor.
Okay.
It's always lovely to be here, and we thank you for your comments, and we will certainly and Greg will absolutely make sure of it.
Okay.
Wood Village is very well represented.
Yeah.
Opportunities for direct
Yeah.
engagement on that.
Well, thanks for your your good work too. So
Great.
all
Thank
right,
you so
thanks,
much.
Chris, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the franchise renewal update.
Yeah.
Ongoing.
A little less fun than the others, but certainly no
Next
less
one, right?
important.
Yeah.
So this is an update
I've
on the
also my
PGE
phone.
franchise renewal discussions that are ongoing. This is a quick background. Basically, they had a 10-year franchise in 2014 that has since expired, but we're working under an extension through the end of the calendar year. We brought you their first run of a update, your July 23rd meeting, and there were concerns around, there were three main components. One was if the city required relocation of facilities and there wasn't enough right of way, the city would have to essentially acquire that right of way. They added a new section for vegetation management that basically essentially gave carte blanche to remove trim vegetation they deemed a threat or hazard to its electrical system. And one that I brought up was based on the transmission line they put in a couple years ago where we had paid to underground. I thought that should be handled in an updated agreement. So we proposed that back after our discussion in July. PGE, we met, actually talked through it. They came back then just earlier this month, or was it late September, early October, they came back with updated language. So what I like to say is when the city requires relocation, and if there's not right away, basically through Oregon statute and other regulations, yeah, we'd have to try to find a spot for that relocation. I didn't foresee a time when we'd require PGE to relocate anything, that there wouldn't be enough right away. So I figured that issue can be settled. So the two issues are vegetation and then when they overhead where we undergrounded. So PGE came back with new language on vegetation management, and it was essentially that they can prune or remove trees or vegetation that pose a risk, regardless of the right of way or not, but would follow the city's tree removal process unless the tree was 24 inches or less in diameter and on the nuisance tree list. We have no such tree removal process nor a nuisance tree list, so I didn't like it. And so what I'm proposing to you all to propose back to PGE is basically PGE typically does have easements through properties where they have their lines, and it seems to make sense that they should have the ability to prune and do the vegetation management needed to protect that system inside that easement with notice. So that's how we propose it, as inside the easement, they essentially can prune or remove with notice. If they do end up with a full removal, they would need to have a discussion about replanting considerations with the property owner, but that'd be the property owner's discretion to replant or not. But then outside that easement, it's the property owner's discretion. PGE can send a letter that the city would have to approve, or letter or notice requesting to prune or remove vegetation. And the property owners, that's at their discretion and their needs and interests to allow that to happen. So that's what I thought that struck a nice balance, but wanted to feedback back to you all before I propose it back to PGE. So pause, these are just summaries of the language, the full language is in your packet, but pause right here to see how that sounds to and what questions you have.
Councillor Clark?
Well, I was trying to follow that to see, and I was hoping that you would have more explanation on it. And to be honest, Greg, I'm still trying to follow it. They want to have the same as what the city had, and so that's where I was looking at where I knew that we didn't really have any, and then so you're wanting to increase just theirs and then allow our citizens to not have any. Is that right?
I didn't quite track that, but let me re-explain.
Okay.
Do you have, Councillor Clark, can you bring up this slide?
He
I
sees it, but
I see it.
All right.
so basically PGE wants the ability to prune and remove vegetation trees at their discretion inside a right of way, inside an easement or not. They simply said they'd follow the city's tree removal process. As you all know, the city doesn't have one. People are
Right.
free to cut and remove trees as they want. So saying that they'd follow this trees removal process doesn't mean anything. It still doesn't necessarily even
Right.
protect the property owner if they have a nice tree that they like, but PGE deems it an issue. There's no protections for that property owner. So what I'm proposing is PGE can prune or remove trees inside their existing easement on any given property with notice to that property owner. And if PGE fully removes trees or vegetation, there needs to be some kind of replanting consideration at that property owner's discretion. Anything outside of PGE's easement is 100% property owner's discretion. So PGE can contact them and say, you have such and such trees or vegetations we'd like to prune and or remove. The property owner has the full right to say no.
Okay, is
So-
this under section 5, G or F is where I was reading this, where they have to get an arborist certified?
Correct.
Okay,
And so this is a fully new section for PGE and its franchise agreements. It's most likely due to the last couple of winter storms where they had a lot of outages due to downed trees and other vegetation. So it's a brand new section, which is why it hasn't come up before, and we're kind of creating it from scratch. So yes, section 5, essentially, I think just section 5, vegetation management. So one of the copies you'll see is the PGE language. The other copy is with the city's edits in it.
okay. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm worried about if someone else, is there any other utility that we have to worry about other than just PGE that this could hinder?
I don't know that. So the other ones that would be overhead include like telecoms, Comcast, Ziply, et cetera. I don't know that they actually do proactive pruning, because I know PGE, I think through the Oregon Utility Commission, actually has to be more proactive in its management practices. But like Northwest Natural, all their stuff's underground. So this is really looking at the overhead transmission lines.
Okay. I'm
Well,
okay
let's-
with that then.
Let's keep going around here. If, Pat, you want to take a swing at this?
At what?
This language, the
I
you good
I
with it?
think if it poses a risk, that's in both of them, and I think that's the important one. So if it doesn't pose a risk, they can't do anything.
Yeah, trying to strike a balance. I mean, it's important to maintain the electrical system. I also don't want PGE to go clear cut someone's tree and then say
Right.
the city said we could.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's
Yeah,
good with
yeah.
me.
I like the verbiage that we've added.
Okay, I'll make a run at it.
Yeah, I'm-
See
I'm-
what they-
I'm good with it too. My experience with them is they came through Rata Road, I think it was 2 years ago. And my my notice was, I saw the trucks out there, and so I walked down and talked to them. And so I think the notice is just, it's just a common courtesy that we should have. When you start taking stuff out, we need 14
So
days.
for the next one, when this is only about when the city has undergrounded something and then PGE comes back with overhead transmission lines. Our first run at it was basically PGE would need to pay back anyone who had paid into the undergrounding, essentially with interest, for every year that project had been done. I think PGE was a little taken aback about that. They'd never, I don't think they'd ever been posed that before.
It's a nice
And
place to start, though.
I expressed our chagrin about what had occurred, along Halsey and parts of 238th, Sandy Boulevard. So they just came back with language that they would just follow the city's permitting process. And we do have a permit process, and that's all well and good. However, none of this would have to follow that because most of it's on county right of way, so it's a county right of way permit. Secondly, our zoning and development codes don't count towards public utility infrastructure like this. And in the interest of trying to update the agreement, in the interest of both parties, what I simply put was in the event that were to occur, the impacts would have to be negotiated and approved by the city. I'd like to believe that won't happen again, but I'm also not confident enough not to have some kind of language in there. But this leaves it essentially open that if they needed a new transmission, something or other, let's say along a portion of Halsey, we can negotiate something out of that versus they just go do it. So just a little different than the first iteration. Just want to see how that resonated with you all.
I love it.
Comments?
Greg and I have talked about this in the past because, we spent a small fortune to bury everything, and then they came along and put those ugly poles in.
You good with the language?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Hey, Greg, I think you got a green light on that one.
Great. So next steps, I'll send this to PGE tomorrow. They'll probably take a bit of time to go through its processes, but the hope is we can actually bring it back for approval. November is the goal, but we still have our December council meeting. So we'll see what they say and we'll bring it back.
I got a question, unrelated to the language, but
Yes.
our 3.5% fee or money that we get from PGE, 3.5%, is that franchise fee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For some reason, I thought it was 5, but yeah, it's.
Hey, Greg. This is
Yes.
Seth. There's a separate portion that is separate from the 3.5%. I think it's
1.5%.
Well, yeah, close to
Yeah.
1.5%. That's in addition to our formal franchise fee.
What is that 3.5 of what number?
I believe it's
That's
their.
gross.
Go ahead, Seth.
That's their gross revenues, gross receipts.
Okay,
From inside.
from inside Wood Village.
Hmm.
Okay, I was wondering about that. So Seth, I didn't know you were out there. Nice to have you here.
I'm always watching, Mayor.
Yes, I can see that.
And the agreement still allows that can be adjusted.
Yeah.
We just have to give notice to them. So this doesn't lock that in for 10 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was curious about that, what percentage of what?
Yep. Total gross
Okay.
revenue.
Okay. We are waiting for the Public Works.
No, we still have one more.
Oh, yeah, council retreat.
Hopefully more of a fun one. Again, try to keep it relatively quick here because all of you have been to retreats. Maybe not all together, but individually, you've all been at retreat. We've done them for well over a decade. We communicate budgets, master plans, ongoing projects, maybe a bit of team building and just general togetherness and working together, solving our community's challenges and opportunities. So want to get a pulse on what we're thinking for this year, because I think this coming year is going to be a little different than the past. I'm just going to assume City Hall. We've never live streamed one of our retreats. That's more logistically challenging, but I like to still pose the question, but assume it's City Hall. People want to come to it. They can come in person. I've seen some nods or at least not disagreements.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
Now here's where some rubber really meets the road. The past several years have included these top 2 bullets where we do a quick recap of the past year, accomplishments, challenges, and opportunities in the year ahead, and then just a review, a quick discussion of our mission, model, values, and goals. That's kind of been a standard agenda item. So I left it here, but I think the real meat of this year's retreat is going to be kind of our fire and EMS services, where that's at IJ renewal with Gresham, as well as where we're at with our 3 cities study. Kind of a companion to that is, the discussion on the 3 cities is public safety coordination, whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement, as well as other opportunities for also closer collaboration, coordination, whether it's utility workforce, parks, planning, finance, et cetera. That then feeds into, master plan updates. And I think for this year, it's really going to focus on that trunk line. As you know, we finished the flow monitoring and now we're in the full kind of analysis of what those flows indicate and what kind of needs do we have. I don't want to presume I know what the outcome is going to be, but it ranges from everything. We don't need to do anything right away to we need to build that big old line, everything in between. And I think we'll have a lot more clarity by the retreat time of what that looks like, which then feeds into, clear a lot of the financials and future projects, et cetera. Certainly, I think woven throughout that is our just outreach and engagement on those, as well as our other city endeavors, and then that annual performance plan development. Certainly there's a lot more we need to discuss as a council and community, but this, I think, would be a very full retreat. And just want to pause again quickly and get your pulse on these items for the retreat this year.
Let's go with comments. Counselor Clark?
Well, last time we had a where we gave any other, well, we had little sticky notes that we put up anything that we wanted to bring up for the retreat. Were we going to do that?
We haven't done quite that exercise in quite some time. I know the past several, they've done pre-retreat interviews. And then at our last retreat, we did the post-it exercise. But it's been some time since it's been the kind of posted activity for agenda items. And I think that's just where we're happy to have that discussion. If something's missing from this, what is that?
Yeah, I think that's the question. As you look at this, is there something as we look at this list? And I would say, keep in mind, we're going to be in the middle of fire discussion, and we may have IGA language to be looking at, and the public safety conversations. Both of these are going to fit in a hefty way in our budget conversations, because they're both going to be going up. So just keep in mind that we really do need time on the public safety issues. But let's see if there's other things that we could fit in here, or put them at least on a list.
Yeah, at least on a list
we
that we
get them
bring back. We
at a
hold a
council
workshop.
meeting and reserve some of that. So
For
I
the APP development for next year. That's what we do during the retreat. That's right.
During the retreat, and also kind of can tease out if we do pre-retreat interviews, some of those things come up. So yeah, for that development, that's where that really occurs.
Okay.
Okay. So then the next piece, is facilitator. We've generally always had a facilitator of some kind in the past, whether it's a general one focused on team building components or otherwise. We talked as staff about this and kind of likened this retreat, for those who were there during our city hall design retreat. That's that retreat that you're focused a lot on what this building is. And we actually had the full architectural team as kind of the facilitator, talking about location, styles, designs, outcomes, goals. And so a thought we had was, at least for part of the retreat, bring in someone from AP Triton, the consultant working on that 3D study, to really dive into some of the details. Hopefully, at least the draft report should be finished, and it'll be a good time to walk through a lot of that and see what other communities have done, in terms of outreach, financing, landmines, opportunities, and have that discussion with them, as well as potentially, hopefully, language about Gresham, that IJ with Gresham, and what has been maybe hopefully structured, and how that could feed in to, I think, we'll call the longer term solution for fire and EMS. And while that would be great for those portions of the meeting, still may need someone else if you all want those pre-retreat interviews or kind of just general progression throughout the day. Again, when we did it for the city hall retreat, we just had the architectural team, and we kept the rest of it going with staff and everyone on that same page, but wanted to, again, take a moment and see your all's thoughts for facilitator this year, given its kind of specialty agenda.
Comments?
I think someone for the fire discussion, maybe bring someone in for that, but as far as a facilitator,
Yeah, I agree. I think keeping us on track with the fire, because I know we can go off in different directions. So, but I feel like having a facilitator for the whole retreat, it was nice. It wasn't a bad thing last year, but I think we can figure that part out.
Counselor Clark?
I agree. The only thing is that I worry about that it puts a lot more on Greg and the rest of the staff to do this. They kind of look forward to having someone else take charge of it. And so I noticed that my computer is typing up everything that I'm saying, which is funny. So we have to always take that into consideration too.
Well, my question is, if we do have a facilitator, aren't you already giving them what you need from them?
I'd say generally
Right.
because I think the goal for this year isn't necessarily, team building in the council. We had some obviously there's still newer council members and whatnot. But because this is going to be a more targeted retreat, it seems to make sense to bring in a targeted specialist. And then we do appreciate the awareness of staff workload and the demand. But the bulk of the workload is putting it all together anyway, the day of. Generally, it's pretty fun. And, I think we've done enough of these. Everyone can recognize, what we need to put in a parking lot and what we need to do to keep moving forward.
Well, it sounds like the staff is ready to take care of that part of it, given the context of this retreat. But I think AP Triton is critical.
I know Becky's not here, but if she were, I'm sure she would volunteer to facilitate whatever AP Triton's not.
Yeah, well, okay.
I was going to say the same thing, but I was too afraid that
Well,
Becky would listen to this.
Well, let's put that in the minutes. It is in the minutes now, so. All right, so you guys are good with handling the rest of it. AP Triton will take us through that fire study,
Yeah.
and that's going to take us a little time.
And again, because they've seen a lot of fire and EMS stuff all around
They
the
can-
country, all around the region. So
They can help us, I mean,
I think so.
to figure out where we're going to draw a line in the sand.
Very last piece, because we're trying to push it a little bit to make sure there's enough fire stuff done. We're thinking the latter part of February, potentially March 1st, making sure some things do fold into budget. I think a lot of them will be relatively known, so less critical than past years to hold it more early to mid-February. So that's February 15th, 22nd, or I believe March 1st.
Okay, so we have also on our agenda, January 25th.
Right, that's probably gonna be too early.
Oh, okay.
And so as from writing the staff report to learning more about some fire stuff, we're kind of trying to maybe push it further back instead of earlier. Sometimes it helps to have the treat early because it helps with budget development. But in this case, given, the fire, EMS and public safety discussion and the trunk line discussion, I think it really would get more clarity having it a little later.
I am out of town on the 15th, but I can do the 22nd.
About the first.
Yeah, March 1st, it's not on the screen, but that's also, I think, available.
I can do March 1st.
I could.
Yeah, I can do.
I can do March 1st or February 22nd.
I can do the first. That's Saturday, right?
It should be.
Yeah, they're awesome.
All right.
They're all Saturdays, aren't they?
Yeah, because I don't think there's 29.
Counselor Clark, are you looking at can you do the 15th, 22nd or March 1st?
Sorry, I thought my microphone was on. Yes, I can do any of those dates.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like March 1st. Is that the preferred?
Okay, look, so I was, the March 1st, Greg, and this is only a question. As we're working through this, is that too late to get Triton here for us to have this conversation? And then also continue the talks with our two cities? I mean, that's a question. I
don't think it's too late. I mean, they initially thought the final report would be ready sometime in March. So like I said, we'll probably be well into at least the draft, which is great because there'll be enough context and content there, and potentially even through the retreat, maybe shaping some of the final components or recommendations, but also helping shape next steps.
Yeah, because we're after we do our retreat, we're going to have a 3-city meeting.
Yeah, once I think either between the draft or the final, or just after the final, there'll need to be some kind of 3-city gathering.
Yeah, okay. Well, would we agree on?
March.
first.
March 1st.
Oh, I don't want to do that one.
So, okay, we'll be here March 1st, talk about public safety.
I was only being polite. All right,
So yeah, I closed it before people could change their mind.
good.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Director of Public Works.
Greg left me to my own devices to figure this.
And I just got a note from Caroline, who's doing the minutes, that she noted Becky will be doing the retreat.
Right. Thank you, Mayor, councilors. So we kind of had a quiet-ish last month. We've been a little understaffed, so we've had a few less projects. But I did want to note that our parks, Robbie, our parks and facilities maintenance worker passed his 6 months, so exciting for him. We did complete our water system survey with OHA, and I want to just let you guys know. So that survey happens every 3 years unless you make outstanding performer. Then it's pushed out to every 5 years. We did not make outstanding performer this time, but they did make a note on our cover page that the only reason that happened was some late sample reporting in 2022. So tiny little niche on us, but that means we're on track to get outstanding performer in 3 years. So that was good news. And then we did complete the lead inventory. That's also ran through OHA down from the EPA. And it will be in the newsletter that's coming out, but our whole public water system is free from any lead. So that's very exciting. Our utility staff actually went to every single meter box in our system and looked at the materials on the public system line and the private lines. And everything that they noted, nothing of that was lead and nothing from just any of our historical background in the public system is not lead, but we do know that we have a lot of older homes in our city. So it is possible that there are some systems, private systems within homes that might have fittings, maybe some lead soldering or just small fittings. So we want people to just be aware of that. We will still be doing lead and copper sampling per the state. That's been going on for many years. And so just a picture, I don't know if anybody has any questions about the lead sampling.
Question I have is that if on the property, if it's an older property, you mentioned in your report that there were some funds possibly available to homeowners.
Yeah.
If they do, how does a homeowner test their water? Is there a test kit that you get at a hardware store or home?
Our test kit, so we go through Columbia Laboratories, and there's many other labs locally around us, but they do specifically have lead sampling kits that homeowners can get.
At where can they get them?
So we go through Columbia Labs. I know there's a laboratory, Alexan Analytical out in
Okay.
Tigard.
So it is more of a specialty test. You can't pick it up just at a Home
More,
Depot.
more
or-
specialty, yes.
Okay, so that might be good information to send out to homeowners.
We
Makes-
actually are looking to send out a letter to homeowners. We do have homeowners that have older homes, that we noticed there are some galvanized fittings, which is a good indicator that their lines haven't been changed out.
I know one of those homes.
There's a few of them.
So, yeah,
It looks like you can get an at-home test kit at Home Depot and Amazon for around $10. Now, how accurate that is, but it might at least give an indication
Yeah.
to a.
okay, well, I think sending a letter out with information about that would be
We will
good.
Yep. So there'll be more information about that. And I know had some funding that was out, that was this year. I think it was more for water systems to help them finish this inventory. But I know that they are looking to provide funding so that so that private lines can get. How that comes down, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if it's something that the state's gonna pass on to the municipalities or whatnot, but we'll keep you guys updated on that. As
If I can interrupt, you can get them on Amazon for $16.99, and thousands of them have been purchased in a month. It's a test kit that you can just test your drinking water with, and it can tell you if there's lead in your water pipes. So it's pretty cool.
perfect.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. So under permits and building, we had 27 permits issued, 31 inspections and 22 new code compliances. Very exciting news on our water consumption. Our water loss is actually down to 6.61%. So we keep dropping. We did have conversations because it's felt like a mystery, but we have over the summer been changing out some water meters, some registers that were old, just through our replacement program. So it does, though there hasn't been much what has seemed like a significant change. I think they've been a lot of big consumers, and so every little bit adds up. So we're thinking that's been what's helping.
Because we really spent the last 2+ years bird dogging that sudden increase in that water loss, and there was never any kind of incident, event.
Lakes showing up.
Yeah, it was really not indicative of a big break. So just as kind of suddenly as it popped up, it seems to have gone back down to our historical averages. But it's not mean we're not keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, good.
Yes. So
Great.
that is what we have. Any questions?
That's really good. 6.61%. That's awesome.
We like to see that.
Very good.
Okay, let's
Okay.
not jinx it.
Oh, thank you.
Eh, Thank you. Money man.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, included in your packet was the finance director's report through September 30th, 2024. I don't have anything to add on what was included in the report. I'll just note that the finance team's been hard at work. We had our auditors in last week, wrapping up the audit. So we'll be continuing to work on that and send them all the documents. My goal is to make sure that they have everything they need from us by Halloween. So we have that going on, and yeah, that's pretty much it for finance for the last month and a half. Has been all audit all the time. So yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the finance report that was in the packet?
No?
No,
Thank you, Seth.
leave that to Seth.
Yep. Thank you, Seth.
I think he was here the whole time. Thought you were just hiding behind the curtains.
Yeah.
Then he pops out.
Yeah.
He's doing audit work.
Hear his voice in the background.
I asked Greg, I met with the auditor today and we got all the stuff squared away. So I asked him if I could try and focus on chasing dollars around while it was still fresh in my mind. So he said, sure.
I thought that seemed like a good use of time / punishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep my report pretty quick here, but just want to let you know we actually have started meeting with Gresham on an IGA renewal. We met yesterday as call it city managers and city manager representatives. Seth actually represented Fairview. And the first meeting was basically to I'll say clear the air. I know some recent Outlook articles came out. Gresham was upset at the 3 cities and something about fanning the flames. Turns out some at Gresham were just kind of upset about some characterizations and statements made by our neighbor to the east, I'll just leave it at that. So it had nothing to do with Wood Village and what we've been doing and things like that. So we cleaned it up. We, got certainly a path forward. And it sounds like from Gresham's perspective, they'd like to treat, I'll call it both the IGA and that larger solution separately. I think, we see them as linked and intertied, but they see them as separate. So they'd like to deal with the IGA first. It makes a lot of sense. At least they recognized if it doesn't go through, they have to do a bit to unwind some things. So that was a positive. And, Seth and I have talked about some approaches, some costing options, and I think we'll be talking with Troutdale here in the next week because we've got our first real bargaining meeting with Gresham on November 7th. And so hopefully we can get to a positive place. I mean, certainly I think everything was said that, everyone understood everyone's position and everyone understood everyone's interest. So hopefully we can build on that and get something with the IGA and then focus on what's next for, I think, the region. So I think it was relatively positive.
And city managers from our two cities, and then the city manager from Fairview has not been hired yet or has not reported to work yet.
Yeah, last we heard from Fairview is their interim has been extended to kind of the first of the year.
Okay.
And
And
I'm not going to speculate.
and then Seth represented two cities here.
No,
Okay.
just Fairview.
And
I think moving forward, it'll be Ray and I,
Okay.
keeping Fairview in the loop, but certainly from past conversations with Fairview leadership, electeds, kind of as the two cities go, they don't mind following as long as they're in the loop.
Okay.
I think we'll have the similar consideration. So,
good enough.
so there's that. I want to just get a quick kind of pulse check on the Easter event. I know it's a little early to talk about Easter, but we're kind of, Caroline and I have been talking about the Easter event and kind of the challenges from the past couple of years and where opportunities may be, and just wanted to get the quick pulse of if we present to you all in December time, maybe two options. One, I'll call it very more traditional egg event like we've had, or maybe something different, and just didn't know if you would be interested in different or like, nah, keep it the same. So just kind of want to gauge that temperature if it's worth putting a different package for consideration for your conversation in December.
But ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh,
It is broke.
I think it's broke.
I didn't get,
Well, what kind of changes are you
Well-
thinking, Greg?
Part of what we've talked about is maybe
Like a
so
trunk or treat kind of.
when we look at our events, it either offers services or what I called enrichment. And this egg event doesn't seem to do either. It almost brings out the worst in some people, like we're inducing competition, and that's not reflective of our community and our values and things. So a thought is maybe something I'll call similar to what we do for Pumpkin Fest, where there's different, I'll just say vendors or displays, booths, opportunities, still egg, still candy, but I think a little more enrichment, less competition.
Mhm.
And like I said, we'd be happy to provide, if you're willing to consider it, maybe some
Yeah.
options of what that could look like. And it's still perfectly fine to say,
Yeah.
we like our big egg hunt.
Well, I'd like to see some options myself, and I don't know, but
I agree. I think some options is something I.
as at
definitely wanna
least
review.
for review and for discussion.
Yeah.
Councilor
Yeah.
Clark? Yeah,
Yes, I love it.
okay. All right. Well, thanks for thinking about it and being proactive
So
about it
we'll
too.
have that in December. And again, it'll be a bigger conversation. Just didn't want to put a lot of resource into developing something if there wasn't appetite for it.
Mhm.
And quick reminder, Pumpkin Fest is this Saturday, rain or shine. Hopefully there's more shine than rain, but not optimistic. But it should be a great event. Cultivate actually helped us out today, got all the pumpkins washed. Robbie actually took lead on that and got the pressure washer
so
out.
I'm
Oh,
doing
no.
it.
So pumpkins are washed, dried, vendors are established. So
Way to go, Cultivate.
yeah, I think it's 9:00 is
9:00,
it 9 or is it 11?
No, 11,
Caroline, what is it?
11 to what?
2.
11 to
11 to 2.
I will not be able to attend. I will be working.
So we got that. We got Parks meeting on Monday and the packet already went out for that. I think it's our 8th attempt at trying to do a Grand Ron meeting. Looks like November 21st. And I think that worked for everybody.
What
So
was the time, the time?
it's basically an all-day event. Like we kind of leave Wood Village at like 8 to get there, 9:30, 10 o'clock. We typically do some sort of tour or activity, followed by like a lunch and discussion, and then head back around like 1:30, 2 o'clock. Try to beat the traffic back. So kind of like just after morning rush hour and travel back just before afternoon rush hour.
And Greg, at this point, what time we normally meet about 11, right? For lunch and then
11:30
no
for
free
lunch.
activities or anything like that.
The what?
No tours or anything like that. So
We don't have to do that, but they've done a lot of new development since our last trip down there 2 years ago.
But right now, that's not included in this.
I think
Oh.
we get there about, 10:30. So we'd have like an hour and a half for a
Okay, I didn't
thing.
hear the 10. Thank you.
Are
And
we
then,
carpooling or what are we, how are we?
yeah, carpool for those who want to, or, carpool, ride share. If you want to be really safe, but Jeff can pop in. I mean, I think it's fine to run, multiple counselors in a car, but if you want to be extra safe, no more than 2 per car. So you're not getting in quorum and having backseat decision-making. But Jeff can certainly weigh in on the appropriateness of that.
Well, as long as you don't talk about any city business, you can have up to 3, up to 2, up to 3, or you could have more than 2. 2 is the minimum to not have to worry about it. If you have 3, then you have to worry about it. So
You have to monitor the discussion if
you
there's
have to
3 or
monitor the
more.
discussion and
I
No,
think
you know-
I certainly think we can probably manage not talking about business and then ride down there together. I've rode to a lot of workshops with more than.
I mean, we'll probably be
Yeah.
taking at least 2,
Yeah.
if not 3 cars. So I think
Yeah.
we'll be fine. And if we happen to, or we'll just put a Post-it note on the
Oh, yeah.
seat.
Duct tape.
yeah, and if you're going on a tour like this, that's exempt from. It's the issue. Once you get there, you're fine, but you can't have a
Yeah.
conversation about city business. When you're not there.
Well, I will do what I can to confirm that date again.
Alright.
And then last but not least, I'm going to call it a mixed news. We just got it today. The speed study result from ODOT on the speed reduction request for Wood Village Boulevard and Narada Road. We got the results back for Wood Village Boulevard. The request was 25 and ODOT came back with 30. So I think the next steps will be working with, okay, if it came back at 30, can we actually do 25 or does it have to be 30? So we just got that this afternoon. So we'll work with the county because I think the goal is 25.
25. We
Yeah.
push back on that if you can.
I don't mind pushing back on the state.
But
How do they determine that? Is that based on how many cars?
So it's based on traffic movements, average traffic speeds, and then number of intersections and the like. So it's kind of an odd little formula. And what they found and when they did their study was 22% of all the vehicle movements were exceeding the speed limit, which is actually a little bit higher than last time we did our, I'll call it more informal study. So yeah, it's kind of a formula of the whole roadway together with the speeds of the traffic and traffic counts. And so the goal is 25 for Wood Village Boulevard, 25 for Arata, and we'll push to see if we can maybe make it 27.
That would be odd.
yeah,
It
If
gets
we
people's
remember that
attention.
speed.
there should always be some exceptions. So find some.
So yeah, we'll work on next
exceptions
steps,
for,
but just got that this afternoon.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
and that is it, unless there are other questions I can entertain.
Any other comments, counselors, updates or anything? Counselor Clark?
Nothing from me.
Okay. I just want to say thanks for hanging in there. The Port of Portland presentation usually longer than what we sometimes have. But in this case, we had the time, and I think I hope that you found it informative and gives us a direction in a lot of different ways as we move forward. So thanks for hanging in there. We're adjourned.
Thank you all very much.
I would like to ask permission to plant some seeds over on that side of City